Welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. It's Wednesday, June 8th. I am Shaka Ssali. Today, we'll discuss the recent walk-to-work protests in Uganda. Dr. Shaka Ssali was once Yoweri Museveni's personal physician. Today, he is a persistent thorn in his side and the main opposition party leader in Uganda. Museveni is now into his 25th year as president, having done away with term limits to stay in power. He was once viewed as a liberator and reformer. Despite his re-election, he faces strong criticism over soaring fuel and food prices, the country's security forces' heavy-handed reaction to public protests, government corruption, and his questionable commitment to human rights. My colleague Paul Cisco has more on this story.
With great fanfare, President Yoweri Museveni was inaugurated for another term in Kampala on May 12. The ceremony was overshadowed by clashes with opposition supporters on a major highway in Kampala, who were welcoming back opposition leader Kizza Besigye. Besigye was returning from Kenya, where he sought medical treatment for injuries received at the hands of security forces during earlier anti-government clashes.
The massive victory by the NRM in the February 2011 elections, therefore, was a triumph of progress and even revolutionary ideology, or progressive and even revolutionary ideology over reactionary ideology. It was a triumph of Uganda's patriotism over sectarianism and opportunism.
Dr. Besigye has lost 3 presidential bids in elections that most international observers say were neither free nor fair or credible. He's also the main impetus behind ongoing walk-to-work protests over rapidly rising food and fuel prices in Uganda.
Corruption, which is, I don't know how it can be described. It's the system of government. If the government was able to recreate itself and deal with these problems, then obviously the people who are agitated may be calmed, and then we would still continue demanding the political reforms. But at the end of the day, the political reforms are at the core of what drives this crisis in the country, the socio-economic crisis.
Besigye has been shot by rubber bullets, repeatedly beaten, and arrested several times with other opposition figures for his political activism. He blames the heavy-handed rule of Ugandan President Museveni for Uganda's ills.
He has always prided himself of being, a freedom fighter who fought Amin, who fought this, but clearly, doing exactly the same things. If you saw the brutality that was going on Entebbe Road, beating women senselessly, and all these kinds of things, totally unprovoked. You can't believe that this is what is happening under a regime led by Museveni, the liberator.
President Museveni vows to crush the walk-to-work protests.
There will be no demonstration in Kampala. Besigye will not demonstrate in Kampala. He will not.
And he accuses the opposition of trying to spread chaos to simply avenge its election losses. Besigye says the protests will continue despite the government's opposition to them.
I think the fear, to me, is a demonstration that they have lost the legitimacy to govern, and that therefore they must govern by might, by violation of other people's rights.
With police force resulting in at least 10 deaths and several hundred injuries, and now with Kizza Besigye out of the country, the walking protests have diminished, and President Museveni, for the time being anyway, appears to have fought off one of the toughest challenges to his 25-year rule. Paul Cisco, VOA News.